And when you do that, what if something happens to you, the purchaser? All right. And in this instance, you will basically pass on the burden to the next person in will. What if, especially so, today when we talk about you are someone going to buy an Enbloc, how does it look like? Okay, waiting for the right time to come. Okay, so this is a very interesting profile for many people who are looking to buy under Enbloc. Okay, and this is usually their profile altogether, just to share with you. If I met a few of them as well. So their intent is they want a windfall. Okay, because and these groups of profile of people are around maybe 50 years old, 60 years old in today's context. Why? Why do they have the mindset of buying a potential Enbloc property? Because they have experienced it from hearsay, like friends, peers that went through it before. So when they hear, they felt very shook, right? They also want to be one of them, all right? So if you are someone that's around this age group and you have friends who have actually went through this Enbloc so-called beneficiary before, sometimes it will more or less influence you. And if it influences you, this is also the kind of gold mine that you want to, or the treasure hunt journey that you want to go for, right? Okay, so I met a lot of them like that, and at the same time, usually their profile is they also really have multiple properties on hand. Okay, and equity on hand to buy the next so-called potential Enbloc properties are usually gearing up from existing property, or if not equity from other sources, because they probably are businessmen, or even some of them have a lot of savings altogether. Okay, and in terms of their purchase is also for legacy planning. That means buying in trustee, passing it down to the next generation, and matching market to their profile. Basically, buying strategy here, urban transformation fundamentals may not matter to them. Okay, so what is important to them is that they see high price gap between a resale and a new launch. Again, just like if you have seen some of my advertisement on YouTube or even Facebook, we talk about Mandarin Gardens and seaside residences, right? And how Mandarin Garden at $1,000 per square foot is still $1,000 per square foot today, back in 2015 to buy them. Comparing to seaside when you first launched at about $1,500 for 1,007 PSF, okay, which is $500 to $700 PSF higher than Mandarin Garden. And today's context is selling about $2,000 to even $2,100 per square foot. Okay, why? Because people who buy Mandarin Garden and not seaside, in this illustration here, in the second box here, you see that they say cheap as undervalued. Okay, so what I mean, when I met people like that, this kind of profile, okay, even back then when I was doing heavily on sales, they always tell me, KS, can you help me find an undervalued property? I told them, what is your term value? Okay, and they tell me that, cheap, no? Okay, I see. So you term cheap as undervalued. But to me, undervalued means today I can buy, okay, so what is value? To me, value means that today I buy expensive, never mind, it must grow. If I buy cheap and it doesn't grow, and I'm actually financing it, basically I'm paying interest on something that's stagnating. Okay, and I'm wasting, of course, my time, my age to borrow as well to something that doesn't grow. All right, which is a commodity. Age is a commodity that we can't get back altogether. So many of them did not know that the 15-year shelf life. Okay, that's why they see the cheap as undervalued. So if you have met friends like that, or even yourself, you are thinking like that, this would be very important for you because this could be transformational. This could change your frame of investing. All right, so do pay extra attention here. Okay, because people who bought under this kind of strategy, their only exit is through Enbloc. Because they already bought something that's maybe 20 years old, 25 years old, even 30 years, because it's cheap, right? Okay, so how if Enbloc is really your only exit? Okay, can you really Enbloc, right? So you think you can Enbloc, okay? So it's right in our face here. So we think you can Enbloc because the fact that right now Enbloc is on the card, it's reviving. And in fact, we have one of the recent Enbloc by Flint Park, which is in Pasir Panjang. I'll be uncovering that with you in a bit. All right, how does that look like for people who have benefited and maybe just bought in recently? So over here itself, we talk about Mandarin Garden, okay, which is completed in 1986. All right. So in Straits Times in 2019, basically Straits Times published that Mandarin Garden seek 2.927 billion Enbloc, and that is already a time when they finally achieved 80% collective sale vote. Okay, and it's 2.927 billion. Can I share with you what happens behind the scene and how does it look like for all these people who buy into Mandarin Garden and hoping for Enbloc. Okay, so if you're one of them that decided to buy on Mandarin Garden and thinking that how does it look like, I'm just going to share with you how it looks like 2 years ago. So over here itself, if you look at this chart on the left side, these are the resale transaction for Mandarin Gardens. All right, and these are time sensitive. That means in the lower part of the chart is 2017, the upper part of the chart is 2019, which is in reference to the article that you see on the right side of the screen, which is the Straits Times article. Okay, so in this instance, what we saw that in 25th of March 2018, EGM approved basically collective sales signature for commencement, seeking a reserve price of 2.479 million. And the article just now you saw was how much? 2.9, right? And this is 2.4. We are about 0.5 billion difference, okay? And this is the start of the entire journey of it. They are trying to get signature, okay? And PSF was going about 1,000 over here, 900 to 1,200 PSF. Okay, and this is what people are basically reselling at. Okay, why would people want to sell at this period, especially so that they know this notion of collecting signatures already ongoing? All right, because a lot of them know that this one won't go through one. Okay, I talked to them on the ground. I basically heard why and what was going on. So that part of the story, I'll leave it to another day for another time. All right, but I just want to show you here that if you bought before or you sell before this action, you basically will only able to sell 800 to 900 PSF only. Okay, so the exit is very important, and those people will exit before the collecting of signature, basically sell at $200 to $300 PSF before those were sold, while the collection of signature was ongoing, even though 80% was not arrived or not attained. Okay, so moving ahead, over here we see a lot of happenings over here, but long story short, I just want to share with you that during this instance, okay, between 18 November to 2019, the reserve price was actually raised twice. That's why you saw that the price was actually eventually hitting 2.92, right? So in 30th of November, price were made reserves and it increased to 2.788 billion from the initial 2.4. So a 0.3 billion was increased. If that's not enough, it didn't reach 80% vote. Finally, the third try to increase to get it at 80% vote has went up to basically 2.927 billion. All right. So many of them will know that the PSF right now probably is not visible anymore because the owners are getting greedy. And of course, in a bid to basically abide to the 80% en bloc, some of them actually wanted a ridiculous price so that it will stop the en bloc altogether. Okay. So with that in mind, those who have actually attained the 80% so-called signature and stay on basically did not went through en bloc. But can I just share with you that those who actually exited, they were exiting close to en bloc pricing. Can you see that there's one on the 25th of June 2018 exited at 1257 PSF, which is actually the same PSF he would have gotten if he were to went to the en bloc. In fact, you get $7 PSF higher. Okay, right. So over here, if you compare this particular unit for someone who had exited during this 1250 PSF was attained, that means 80% vote was actually achieved for this reserve bid, right? Or reserve price tag, sorry. Comparing to someone that actually sold their unit even before signatures were collected. The difference in gain is 18.5%. We are talking about 947 PSF to 1,122 PSF. All right. So I just want to let you know that in the event, if you feel that the en bloc may not kick off in your entire development because there's too many stakeholders, too many people to really overcome to go through this en bloc, you can still exit even before the entire whole thing takes place. Because even if the en bloc were to go through, it takes another 9 more months, and of course, developer has the right to actually not continue to execute the sales and purchase agreement itself, even though they put in an option fee. All right. So things like that, different stakeholders and different. Also heard before that different en bloc development was supposed to go through, but there was some hanky-panky and then it didn't went through as well because it went to high court yet again. All right. So in the instance to save all this trouble, you could still take the notion of all this hype to exit. All right. Basically passing on the immediate en bloc beneficiary to the next buyer. All right. So over here, the key takeaway here is that good intent with wrong product fit, that means you want to pass on to the next generation buying an en bloc property. but will create a totally different outcome and a totally different and unwanted outcome. So what it means is that, okay, imagine you're someone who actually wants to buy Mandarin Garden for Enbloc, okay, and at the same time, the Enbloc, the intent is for what? To pass down to the next generation, okay. And with that, you actually took a loan on the property. That means you don't basically take up very minimal loan. You take maximum loan. And the fact that you do that, again, it falls back on buying something beyond 15-year shelf life. You are attracting interest on something that doesn't grow, which is stagnating. Okay? And when you do that, what if something happens to you, the purchaser? All right? And in this instance, you will basically pass on the burden to the next person in will. All right. And the fact here is that many of them will not buy a mortgage insurance. Why? Because mortgage insurance is as high as paying another installment given the profile of the buyer, which is 50 to 60 years old. All right. So with that, they will usually not do that. And then in fact, instead of passing on a legacy, you pass on a burden. Okay, unless you're going to pay it in full, but paying it in full again is not the best way to invest in real estate. Okay, so strategy, product fit, and also intention must all gel together as one. If you don't get it right, that's when intent is correct, but the outcome is different. So in this instance, again, what we saw that do not buy with only Enbloc as the only exit. Okay, and of course, and if you must take minimal financing. Why? Because again, we do not want to pass down burden to the next so-called legacy or the next generation, right? Okay, and very importantly, if you're wondering if you should do this, there is still hope by executing an exit at the right time to a successful Enbloc within 500 meters of your estate. So what it means, I shared this during my last webinar before, but I'm just going to recap it one more time for you. So it means is that if you were to buy something and it did not Enbloc, okay, don't be upset. You can still exit just like how Mandarin Garden went through that 60% vote and then people exited at the same price as close to the Enbloc PSF.